So, hello and welcome back to my C++ tutorial playlist. In this video, I want to cover some CMake basics, and I also want to use this as an opportunity to restructure our code a little bit. And for that, I will create, first of all, a source folder and move our main CPP into there, and also our task list. Let's create a new folder for includes and move our task list into here. And then also we want to have our tests in a new directory. And I want to do unit tests as a directory, and then also integration test like this. And yeah, this is a mixture, basically both. I'm not sure. I would leave it as this for now, and this one is fine like it is. But here we also want to have our implementation file for our task list, maybe, or maybe we'll leave it as a header library only. Okay, and of course we have our top level CMake. And this is only for testing. So let's create in our tests directory a new CMake list file and copy these things over like that. And then in here, we basically want to check if we build testing at all. And I think that's called build testing. This is set by default by CMake. And if we do, then we want to add subdirectory tests, and we would leave it as like this. This is still fine, but we could now, of course, expand this to add these subdirectories. I think we will do that in the future. Now we will just have some more basic structure. So let's add CMake lists here as well and copy all of the code that is related to our hello target into here. And this one should still be set here. In modern CMake, basically everything is target-based, but for some things like the C++ language standard, I still like to use the global variables that CMake offers. I think that just makes things easier, but you can, of course, be more strict about it and set it for this target only with set target properties, but I think that's more convenient to do it globally. And of course we want to add our subdirectory source here. And now you can see we have the build testing here, and we can set that in our CMake presets, and we only have a default here, and that's fine. I think we don't need anything else for now. Sorry, that was the wrong thing. Not sure. Anyways, build testing, and we set that to true. And later when we maybe have a release preset, then we might set it to false. But yeah, for now we always want to have it. Then we, of course, want to take a look at our top level CMake list. So we can easily build it. We always want to have a top level CMake list, but this is always the first line that we want to specify with the version. And then also you always want to specify our project, but our project, let's call this TODO-List. And also this will be deprecated in the future. So we can see here version minimum and also here a maximum. This is optional, but we should supply that. And maximum version we can supply 4.1 here. And we do get error here, not a directory. See why that is. Yeah, let's look later into it. Here we set the language standard, and also here we set the standard that is required. And here we also disable the compiler extensions. Here we can supply some more things, like for example, the language is CXX. So we disable So we disable any C compatibility here. Then here, of course, we get errors, and also here. We, of course, need to also set this as an include target. So let's create a new file here and add library. And we call this task list, and this will be an interface library. So, and we want to add target include directories, which is the current CMake list directory. And we can do that like so, current list directory, like so. And then we can link this into of course, we first need to add subdirectory include, like so. And then in our source directory, we can link our target link libraries, and this will be our task list. And we want to link this into here to our hello. Maybe let's rename our target and we call this TODO-List app, like this. TODO-List app. This is still fine. TODO-List app, like that. And here TODO-List app, and let's link this privately. And this will be linked, our task list will be linked now to our to-do list app. Now we need to do the same thing for our tests. Target, link libraries, tests, and also we want to link it privately. And this is the task list. Now let's see what happens here. Let's clear this. Also, let's go up one directory and remove our build for now. And as we can see, we only have one preset, the default preset. And this has worked. Now we want to build our things and let's see if it works. And it did work. Let's go into our build directory, and now we have our source directory here, and here is now our to-do list app, and that still works. And now let's go into our tests directory, and here we have our test binary, and as we can see, we have passed our unit tests. If we run C tests, it still works. So everything as expected. But what I don't like is that the source directory is put into here. This should now be our bin directory. So for that, we need to specify a target directory here, like so. So everything that is in the bin directory, in the source directory, will be put into the bin directory whenever we build. So in the build directory, it will be in bin. So if we do that, it should now be put into the bin directory. As we can see, our to-do list is now here. We can see the source directory has not been deleted, but we can delete it manually. This would not be created if we would have built it from scratch again. So far so good. What else did I want to do? So this should be the basics for our restructure. Here I want to create another folder, basically for the future, to also have a folder where we can put our documentation into. But the main folder should have a README markdown file where we can put basic documentation, and then in here we would have further documentation. So now let's go back to the main topic of the video, because I now just use the time to restructure the project. So whenever we go into here, we first need to specify the minimum required version. I like to set the C++ standard globally with the set command. Everything else should usually be target based, and we can add targets with the add library or add executable commands, as we have seen in here. If we go into here, we have created an interface library. That basically means there's no implementation here in this library. It only supplies an interface. And here in our source code. In our source directory, we have created a new executable, which is the To-Do-List app. And as we can see, we now have all the target commands that add sources and compile options so on based on a target that we have created with the add executable. We could, in theory, also use the add custom target command to create our custom targets. For example, later on, we could copy things or create documentation and so on using CMake and create a custom target for that. Right now, we don't have a use for it yet, so I will show it in a later video. But just know for now that CMake is a full-blown scripting language, and custom targets are usually used to encapsulate execute custom functionality written in CMake that we might need to build our code properly. And if you are interested in that, I will link a project of mine in the description where I have played around with a lot of CMake functionality, and you can take a look how a real or bigger project might use CMake to automatically create files, copy files, and so on. Also, there is a great CMake tutorial online by CMake itself. So there's an official tutorial, which I will link also in the description, so you can get familiar with all the usual commands that we use. Yeah, I think this should already be it for this video. I think it was important that we focused on restructuring this project so we can build upon this in the future. And with that, see you in the next video.